There's something about motorcycles that blend classic looks with like modern muscle. It's like they capture the best of both worlds, that timeless appeal of a vintage design, but with all the performance and technology of a brand new bike.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We got a recent article about the 2025 Triumph Speed Twin 1200. So let's unpack this modern classic.
Yeah, this segment of the motorcycle market is really heating up. Riders are rediscovering the joy of a more analog riding experience,
Yeah,
but they don't want to sacrifice performance.
exactly. And the Speed Twin seems to be right in the sweet spot. The article talks about its sleek lines, those brushed aluminum accents, and that iconic Triumph silhouette. They even use the phrase retro-modern fusion.
Yeah, it's that blend of old and new that's so intriguing.
Yeah.
For example, you see that classic teardrop-shaped fuel tank, but then you notice the LED lighting and those modern alloy wheels.
And speaking of modern, the spec sheet is impressive. A 1200cc engine with nearly 100 horsepower. That's a lot of punch for a bike that looks like it could have rolled out of a 1960s movie. It's not just about raw power, though. What's fascinating here is that Triumph has squeezed that much power out of a parallel twin engine. And those are known for their smooth power delivery. You see the way the pistons fire in a parallel twin? It creates a more balanced, almost rhythmic feeling.
Ah, so it's not just about going fast, it's about how you get there.
Precisely. And Triumph has a reputation for building some of the smoothest parallel twins in the business. The article mentions this engine has been tuned for both low-end torque and top-end power, making it versatile for all sorts of riding.
So it's got the classic looks and the modern power. But what about the riding experience? Is this just a pretty face, or is there substance behind the style?
There's definitely substance here, and one of the ways you see that is in the technology. The Speed Twin has ride-by-wire throttle, which means there's no physical cable connecting your hand to the engine. Instead, sensors interpret your throttle input and electronically control the fuel injection.
Now that sounds pretty high-tech for a bike that's trying to evoke a classic feel. What's the advantage of that?
Ride-by-wire allows for much more precise throttle control. It also enables things like multiple riding modes and traction control. This means the bike can adapt to different riding conditions and rider preferences, making it safer and more enjoyable to ride.
So they've managed to sneak in some serious tech without sacrificing the aesthetic. That's impressive. But what about stopping power? All that muscle needs some serious brakes.
Absolutely. And Triumph hasn't skimped there. The Speed Twin is equipped with Brembo brakes.
For those who might not be familiar, what's so special about Brembo brakes?
Brembo is an Italian company that's renowned for its high-performance braking systems. They're used in everything from supercars to MotoGP bikes. And the calipers on the Speed Twin are no exception. They provide incredible stopping power and feel, which means you have more control and confidence when you need to slow down.
Okay, so we're talking style, power, technology, and now top-notch brakes. This is shaping up to be quite a package. But how does the Speed Twin stack up against the competition? Those other bikes vying for a spot in your garage. The article mentions a few rivals, like the Ducati Scrambler 1100 and the BMW R9T.
You're right, this segment is getting crowded, and each of those bikes brings something different to the table. The Ducati has that raw, almost rebellious energy with its exposed frame and knobby tires. It's all about fun and a bit of off-road capability. The BMW, on the other hand, leans towards a more refined, almost heritage feel. It's known for its iconic boxer engine and a bit more of a premium price tag.
So where does the Speed Twin fit into this spectrum?
From the information you've provided, the Triumph seems to be aiming for a balance between the two. It offers that classic British style, but with a level of performance and technology that puts it right up there with the best in the class. And price-wise, it seems to be slotted right in the middle.
All right, so far we've got a bike that looks the part, packs plenty of power, and boasts some serious tech and braking prowess. But we all know every bike has its quirks, right? Let's shift gears and take a look at some of the potential downsides the article mentions.
You're absolutely right. No bike is perfect. And in the case of the Speed Twin, one of the first things that jumps out is the lack of wind protection. That classic naked styling means there's nothing to deflect the wind blast at higher speeds.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue, especially for longer rides.
Yeah.
Definitely be feeling the fatigue after a while. Is that something aftermarket parts could address? Like, could you add a windscreen or fairing?
You could, and a lot of riders probably will, but it's something to factor in, especially if you're planning on using this bike for commuting or touring. It might not be the most comfortable option right out of the box.
Okay, wind protection noted. What else does the article point out?
Well, they also mention the weight. At 476 pounds, it's not exactly a lightweight. Now, it's not unusually heavy for this class of bike, but it is something to consider.
especially if you're doing a lot of city riding, maneuvering through traffic or parking in tight spots. I imagine that extra weight could become a factor.
Exactly. And speaking of factors, there's the price. The article lists the starting price at $13,595. Now, that's competitive with its rivals, but it's still a significant investment.
So potentially a deal breaker for some riders,
Mm.
especially those on a tighter budget. Okay, so we've got these three potential drawbacks. Limited wind protection, a bit on the heavier side, and a premium price tag. For you, what stands out as the most significant of those?
I think it really depends on the individual rider and their priorities. If you're someone who values long distance comfort, that lack of wind protection could be a major issue. But if you're mainly using the bike for shorter rides and weekend blasts, it might not be such a big deal.
Right. And the weight. Would that be noticeable for the average rider?
It depends on your riding style and experience. If you're used to lighter, more agile bikes, you'll definitely feel the difference. But the Speed Twin is designed to be a stable and planted machine, so that weight can actually contribute to its confident handling at speed.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing, just something to be aware of. And what about the price? Is that justified for what you're getting?
Well, you're getting a lot of bike for the money, a powerful engine, high quality components, and a level of technology that's not always standard in this class. But it's still a considerable sum.
All right, let's switch gears and dive into the FAQ section of the article. One of the questions that caught my eye was about the Speed Twin's ease of use. They specifically ask if it's a good bike for beginners. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, and one that potential buyers should definitely consider. On the one hand, the Speed Twin has a lot of rider-friendly features, like those multiple riding modes and traction control. Those can help make the bike more manageable and forgiving. But on the other hand, that 1200cc engine is no joke. It's got a lot of power, and it requires a certain level of experience and skill to handle safely.
So maybe not the best choice for someone brand new to riding?
I'd say it's probably best suited for riders who have at least some experience under their belt, someone who's comfortable handling a larger, more powerful machine.
Makes sense. Another question from the FAQ that I wanted to touch on is about maintenance. The article mentions that the Speed Twin has relatively long service intervals.
That's a definite plus. Longer service intervals mean you spend less time and money on routine maintenance. It also suggests that Triumph has confidence in the reliability and durability of the bike.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the Speed Twin styling, its performance, those impressive Brembo brakes, the advantages of ride-by-wire, and even some of the potential drawbacks to consider. What's the overall takeaway for you?
I think the 2025 Triumph Speed Twin 1200 offers a really compelling package. It's a bike that appeals to both the heart and the head. You get that classic Triumph character, but with a modern twist.
Yeah.
And the performance is definitely there.
It really does seem like Triumph has done their homework with this bike. They've taken a classic concept and given it a thorough modern update. But let's bring this back to you. If you were in the market for a bike like this, what would be the one deciding factor for you? What would tip the scales between the Speed Twin and one of its rivals, like the Ducati or the BMW?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like choosing between three delicious flavors of ice cream. Each one has its own unique appeal. What are your initial thoughts? What grabs your attention first when you compare these bikes?
Honestly, for me, it would come down to the riding experience. I'd want to know which bike felt the most connected, the most engaging. Which one made me smile the widest when I twisted the throttle?
I think that's a great approach. It's easy to get caught up in specs and features, but at the end of the day, it's about how a bike makes you feel. And that's something you can only really discover by throwing a leg over and taking it for a spin.
Exactly. And maybe that's the perfect note to leave our listeners on. If you're intrigued by the 2025 Triumph Speed Twin 1200, go experience it for yourself. Take it for a test ride. Feel that engine pulse between your legs and see if it speaks to you. And who knows, maybe one of its rivals will steal your heart instead.
That's the beauty of it. There's a whole world of amazing motorcycles out there, each with its own personality and charm.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of the Triumph Speed Twin 1200. Huge thanks to you for sharing your expertise and helping us unpack all the details.
It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy exploring these two-wheeled marvels.
And to you, dear listener, thanks for joining us on this journey. If you want to learn more, we've included a link to the full article in the show notes. But for now, we'll leave you with this thought. What kind of riding experience are you searching for? And what bike will take you there? Until next time, keep the rubber side down and keep exploring.